Yo, what is going on, guys? All right, man, it's college football selection show. Sorry I'm a little late. I'm on Pacific time. It's early here. I just got up. It's early. Um, but we're going, and they are revealing it right freaking now. So I'm gonna go over here. I don't want to get any copyright or anything, but the number one team is Oregon. I was gonna go over what my rankings are. But they got number two, Georgia. Number two is Georgia. That is expected. This is how they're ranked. Obviously, Notre Dame's not going to be number three. But yeah, this is expected. Oregon, number one, clear number one, undefeated. Number two, Georgia. It's really going to come down to SMU and Alabama. Now they're going to this thing. Who gets the two first round byes? There's three conference champions here. Who gets the first round byes? I think it should go Boise State, Arizona State. I even though I'm a big fan of Arizona State, I do think Boise State should be the number three team, and then Arizona State number four, and then Clemson. For me, Clemson's coming in at number 10. It will be interesting to see where they actually rank Clemson if they do not get the bye. That will be interesting to see. Hopefully this is all good. Let me test. For me, Clemson's coming. Yeah. Okay. So I'll mute that so we don't have no echo. But let's go back on over here. This is so they reveal Boise State is number 3. So that is correct. Go on this Reddit post here. And Boise State is hyped up. Boise State is hyped. So far it's going with really what I think. You look at, for me, and this is again the rankings list. This is not necessarily where they are in the bracket. For me, number 8 Boise State, just ahead of Arizona State. That's true to it, and I'm gonna probably stick on this one thread right here because this actually shows what I would technically kind of agree with the bracket. Again, I would honestly maybe have an argument with Ohio State being ahead of Penn State. Arizona State gets the bye. Arizona State will get the bye. They are number 4. So number 1 is Oregon, number 2 is Georgia, number 3 is Boise State, and number 4 is Arizona State. And they're just showing Arizona State's watch party. They are excited. They get the number 4 seed. Who would have thought Arizona State gets a bye in the playoffs as a number 4 seed? No one. No, I mean, I'm telling you, no one saw this coming at all. Arizona State. So it says right there, Arizona State's number 12. This can kind of tell us some things. Boise State is number 9. So there is a spot in between Boise State and Arizona State. For me, I had it Boise State number 8 and Arizona State number 9. They have it Boise State number 9 and Arizona State number 12. So that's very interesting because it will be interesting to see where they rank. So they jump Arizona State. This is last week's. They jumped Arizona State from number 15 to number 12. That still means at Alabama, it could still be number 11. It will be very interesting to see how far they drop SMU. That will be very, very important. Boise State moves up 1 spot for winning their conference title game, and then Arizona State moving up to number 12, about 3 spots. So it'll be interesting to see where do they put Clemson. Clemson comes in at number 12, obviously. They're ranked number 16. Clemson moves up just 1 spot. I think that actually tells us a lot. Clemson just moves up 1 spot. That means they are still behind these SEC teams in Miami. I think that could potentially tell us that it's going to be Alabama because if SMU would have a better argument if they moved Clemson up higher in the rankings. Because for me, I had Clemson number 10, so they would be number 10 seed in the playoff field. This tells us that they're not very strong. Texas will come in at number 5. Yeah. I generally agree with that. I put Notre Dame at number 3, but honestly, I would kind of switch that around. I did this last second. I think I would agree more so with this list right here from Reddit. They do put Penn State number 5 and Texas number 6. Interesting that they show that. And again, I think this is showing they are liking the SEC and they're not liking the ACC as much. And that's going to be the key argument. Texas and Clemson in a first round game is actually really going to be, that's actually very interesting. I think that's going to be a good game. Obviously, I'd like Texas in that, but they'll be at home. But man, Clemson, off the last second win from SMU, they just played themselves in. Same thing with Arizona State. It'll be very interesting to see that top half of the bracket there. We got Arizona State, and then we got Texas and Clemson. Arizona State and Clemson, two teams that played their way into it. Penn State coming in at number 6. So that was a thing. Would it be Penn State or Texas? Who gets that higher spot? We still have yet to see Notre Dame. That is interesting because that means they are prioritizing a little bit of these conference championship games. Even if they lose, they still get, a higher seed than a Notre Dame who did not play in a conference championship game. Yeah, that's interesting as well. So Penn State just behind Texas, so that tells me they're valuing the conference championship games that are losers. Again, Penn State, who was just number 3, they dropped down to number 6 after losing. So it's like, okay. But the so far it's telling me a few things, being that conference championships matter. So Notre Dame will come in at the number 7 spot, and you see, you can't see, but on the show, we got the top seeds are it's Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, and then Notre Dame. So Texas and Penn State staying up pretty high. So really, Penn State just moved down 1 spot. Texas moved down 1 spot after losing their conference championship games. Both those games were close. I think that's a good spot. Notre Dame being number 7, that makes sense. And so far, it's going according to this post, which I definitely agree. They're saying this is the correct list. It's obviously all going to come down to, another thing to watch is Ohio State or Tennessee. I think one thing that was interesting that we just got revealed, Ohio State will be below Penn State. Ohio State beat Penn State. They both have 2 losses, but they are prioritizing that conference championship appearance from Penn State. They are prioritizing that. So Ohio State will be what looks like number 8. So if they do win whatever game that is, they could get a rematch with Oregon, which I think could be peak. We'll have to review what the quarterfinal bowls are. Maybe go into that. Maybe I'll review that in a video, because I will do a full recorded video as well. Just want to check over on this. That all good. Okay. So, yeah, very interesting that, they prioritize that conference championship over the head-to-head, which, in my opinion, head-to-head is first and foremost out of everything. I personally actually would have put Ohio State above Penn State simply for that head-to-head. But they don't, and they put Tennessee at number 9, so Tennessee will have to go up to Columbus in the winter weather. That's big. That's big. Tennessee at number 9, and this is going all according to this post right here on Twitter. It's going exactly, except for Texas and Penn State. Texas and Penn State were switched. But yeah, I think it's very interesting that they put Penn State 2 spots ahead of Ohio State. Ohio State being ahead of Tennessee, that could have been an argument. I could see an argument for Tennessee. They have good win. You could argue they have better wins than Ohio State. Ohio State does have the win versus Penn State. Tennessee, on the other hand, has a win against a team like Alabama, which we'll see. Tennessee coming in at number 9 there. So the bracket's got 2 spots left. 2 spots left. So really, it's coming down to Indiana, SMU, Alabama, probably not Miami or Ole Miss, because they're, committee already said we're not going to recompare teams that haven't played in the conference championship game. So it's coming down really to those 3 teams. Indiana, And Indiana will come in at number 10. So they will play Notre Dame, and that's going to be a good game, dude. Notre Dame versus Indiana, I think that's going to be a peak. These first round matchups are already super. These are going to be super peak, dude. Texas, Clemson going to Texas, Tennessee going to Ohio State, and now Indiana going to Notre Dame. That's the right ranking, I think, for Indiana. They've had a good season, only one loss. Again, if they put Alabama in here, why are it's all come down to this. It's all come down to this. Are they going to do a whole Florida State thing again? This is basically Alabama versus Florida State part 2. Here it goes. So they're going down to this resume comparison, and when you put the resumes up together, like they have right here, it's easy Alabama. But the precedent that they are about to set, if Alabama goes ahead of SMU, is ruining this whole system of the conference championships. It really will, because if I'm an SMU next year, if I'm a team like SMU, I do not want to play my conference championship game. If they had not played a conference championship game, they would be in here. They were number 8. They would be around where Tennessee and Ohio State are safely in. But because they played that conference championship game, it's all come down to this. Let's see how they reveal it. I have the video on mute, so I don't know what they're really talking about. It's all come down to this. It's SMU and Bama. That's really what it was. What it is. Why Ole Miss isn't in the conversation, I don't know. Why Miami isn't in the conversation, I don't really know. South Carolina is understandable. Again, I would have actually put Ole Miss above Alabama in last week's ranking. But nevertheless, it's SMU or Alabama. This is going to shake it up. And they put SMU in. They did it. They put SMU in. SMU is the number 11 seed. They did the right thing. The committee just did the right thing, guys. I was fully expecting them to put Alabama in, but they put SMU in. This is huge. This is big. I think it's going to be very split. Internet's going to be very split, and I'm very interested to see how Twitter goes. And we got to make the post right here. I gotta say, committee did the right thing. Hashtag CFP 2024, sure. So there it is. Alabama's the first team out. Then it's Miami. Nick Saban does not look very happy, but it's the right move. Okay, because it's the right move. Let's get this on. I want full on me here now. Here, this is probably fine. It's the right move. This is why, because I know Alabama technically has the better resume. I think we can all agree. But 2 problems with that. Number 1 is you are penalizing a team for making the conference championship game for playing an extra game. And if you had left SMU out, that would have set a whole thing of, well, what's really the point of these conference championship games? What's the point of me going to a conference championship game if I have a chance of losing and then getting knocked out? I was just the 8th seed. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So Alabama left out. Another problem with that is if you had put Alabama in, what separates Bama from a team like Ole Miss? I don't Ole Miss had a better win versus Georgia, the SEC champions. What separates those two? So I think it's the right call, and then what separates them is Miami in between, which I think last week's rankings were horrible. This week's rankings were fixed. They were fixed. The committee did the right thing. The committee did the right thing this time. Another thing is, I'll probably put this in my video. This Alabama team is not the same as last year's Alabama team that was coached by Nick Saban. This year's Alabama team has had a lot of flaws. Last year's Alabama team just had one loss, I believe it was. Either one or two losses. But they weren't as flawed as this Alabama team. Yes, Alabama beat Georgia. And a team like Texas can't even say that. But Texas didn't have those losses. And really it's come down to, let's see if they've posted the rankings right here. It's come down to you made your conference championship. They have not. They have not posted that. Can't find it. Let me see if I can. CP rankings. A lot of discussion about Texas. I don't know. No one has posted it yet. Come on, guys. The worst ranking in the CFP era. Oh, wait, no, that's a very old post. So I'll be interested to hear what the committee has to say. I still can't find the final rankings for you guys. Let me see if someone like Bleacher Report. Come on, y'all. Okay, here it is. So I'll switch over. People always say Bama should be in. And I can understand that argument to a certain extent, but when you put Alabama in, my thing again is why not Ole Miss? So in order to avoid that discourse, why not Miami even? And in order to avoid that discourse, you put SMU in, who made their conference championship game, who lost by on a last-second field goal. That really helped to them coming back in the fourth quarter. That really helped. Their win-loss versus over 500 teams is 5-2. I don't know what it is for Alabama. Their key wins are not great, obviously. Their strength of record is 15, strength of schedule is 60. And they actually have a higher seed, technically, than the conference champion Clemson. I would have ranked Clemson higher than SMU, but this is just how it all shakes out. It will be very interesting to see what the committee does going forward. Do they keep with this precedent? Obviously, during the 14 playoff, it kind of seemed like they changed around a bit, maybe depending on who was in there. People saying they got it right, did the right thing. People saying it's cool. This guy saying that Bama was robbed, although no likes on that one. I think the committee did the right thing. Joey Galloway is he's talking right now. He's a big Bama guy. Again, yes, Alabama got that key win versus Georgia. Ole Miss did too. Georgia, they've been very up and down. Dogfight with Texas. But this is how it all turns out here. I'll put this in the big screen. So first team out is Alabama, then Miami. I would have maybe switched some things around just a little bit. Like I could make it. You can make so many different arguments for where these rankings, could be. You look at, Ohio State beat Penn State. Okay, maybe the argument there is Penn State has more wins, and it looks like they're really going with, hey, all these teams got 10 or more wins. There's no single-digit win column here. I think that's very big. There's no single-digit win column team here. Everyone got 10 or more wins. And now the negative thing with this, and I'll probably try to cover a little bit in the video that I'll make, is the SEC is sitting here 3 teams. They feel like they should have at least gotten 4. You look at a Big Ten. Big Ten got 4. The Big Ten got 4 teams. SEC got 3. The Big Ten is very top heavy. There are some teams that stink in the Big Ten. The SEC, it seemed like every single game was a fight. So the SEC is now going to be sitting here and being like, okay, we have to play a very high-level game every single week. A team like SMU did not, and their biggest tests, by BYU and Clemson, they lost. So maybe the the SEC is going to be thinking, why should we even participate in this? Maybe if an SEC team wins, then that might even prove their point even more. It will be very interesting to see how each conference does. Big Ten has 4 teams, if I'm correct. Am I not tripping? Yes, Big Ten has 4 teams: Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and Indiana. Those were the big 4. Those were they won their games, and this Big Ten fans can make the argument, hey, our best teams won their games. They won every game they were supposed to win. Teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, teams like Ole Miss, teams, those teams, they lost games that they were not supposed to lose. Ole Miss losing to Kentucky, Alabama losing to Oklahoma. A team like Penn State did not lose those type of games. Penn State lost to an Oregon and Ohio State, 2 very good teams. They handled everyone else. They played Oregon tight. They played Oregon to the end there until the interception. I think that was big for your SMUs and your Penn States. They played close national championship games. They have not brought on the committee guy yet. I'll be interested to see what he has to say. Notre Dame being number 5 there, I think they were pretty consistent with these rankings. I mean, it gets a little messy in the 8 to what's essentially 12. But you look at the top here. Oregon, Georgia, conference champions. Yes, Georgia has 2 losses, but at this point, everyone's got a ton of losses. Texas. Now, why they don't put Penn State here instead of Texas, I don't really know. They obviously view Oregon as superior to Georgia. So why don't you view Penn State superior to Texas? Don't really know. Texas doesn't really have the argument of a Georgia or a Bama that can say, I played all these super tough teams in the SEC. People are going to make the whole fuss about Texas. Hey, Texas had a really easy schedule in that SEC. Indiana had a pretty easy schedule in that Big Ten. SMU, they didn't have to play Miami. And the ACC is, they got the 2 lowest seeds. So it's not like they're getting completely rewarded, but they did get 2 teams in. They didn't get their Miami in, but Miami cost themselves. Miami could have been up here in the quarterfinals. I don't know where was it going. Oh yes, the CFPs. I like their consistency here somewhat. Then they go Notre Dame. This is really the best power team, I guess you want to say, that didn't play in a conference championship, that didn't win a conference championship. Then you got, or didn't really play even, Ohio State, Tennessee. Can you make the argument these 2 could be flipped? Sure. But again, they do keep it a little bit consistent because they don't put Alabama in. If I saw Tennessee at 8 and Ohio State at 9, then I would be thinking, maybe Alabama is in. But they don't do that. Indiana, number 8, I would have put Boise State over Indiana. I would have even maybe put Arizona State over Indiana. Indiana has 11 wins, and that's impressive. But again, not the strongest, and they didn't make their conference championship. Boise State, they won everything. They got top 25 wins. Now you want to be like, hey, you're arguing about these top 25 wins. What about Alabama in there? Well, the difference is that conference championship. They made and won the conference championship. Boise State did. Anyway, then you got Arizona, and Clemson ranked 16. I would have maybe moved them ahead. When I saw Clemson ranked at 16, I was thinking, okay, maybe they're going to kick SMU out, because Clemson, obviously, they didn't rank them that high. But they put SMU in, and I think they avoid, but they also get a problem here. There was no really winning. Even if you put Bama in, you have a whole new problem. But with SMU, you have a bit of a problem with the SEC being like, hey, we are the top. They believe they are the toughest conference. Every single SEC game is a dogfight. Every single SEC game, you have to play your A-game championship level. And they only get 3 teams in, while the Big Ten is sitting with 4, while the ACC gets 2. But if you had to put Alabama in, you would have sparked a whole new thing with being like, what's the point of conference championship games? What's the point of me going to a conference championship game, my team going to a conference championship game, if we have the risk of losing and getting knocked out? SMU moves down 2 spots for losing. Penn State moves down 1. Texas moves down 1. I'm just trying to look at, who gets punished where. I want to see, do they, come on, publish the full ranking. I don't know if they've published actually the full rankings. Yeah, maybe it's just that first basically top 13, top 12. UNLV will probably stay in this top 25. They might move back, but they'll probably stay in that. That's big for a Boise State. But I think ultimately the committee did the right thing here. They did. You can argue Bama, but I will argue Ole Miss. I will. To me, I think it's as simple as that. And both teams had bad losses, and they put themselves in this position. SMU played their way into a conference championship, lost on the last second field goal. Would we be having a different conversation if SMU got totally blown out? Look, they were down 24-7 at halftime. And it was looking like, oh boy, SMU might just fall all the way down. But they fought back, and they made it a freaking game. And now they have a game with Penn State, which I think is going to be a good one. That defense of SMU is going to have to hold together. That Penn State defense, although they did let up a lot from Oregon, I think that Oregon offense is the best in the country. I think you can't argue that after you've seen Texas struggle. Georgia obviously is not. They got a backup quarterback in there who's kind of better than Carson Beck. Stockton kind of better than Carson Beck. Oregon obviously the number 1 offense. But looking at these first round matchups, this is going to be good. I'm excited for these first round matchups, man. And I want to see when are we looking at that? Yes. Okay, December 20th is the first round matchups. December 20th and December 21st. So, we're going to have to wait a couple weeks. We got that Army-Navy game. And here we go. So we got, okay, will they bring on, okay, the committee chairman will join them live in about 3 minutes, it looks like. So, I want to see what he has to say. Because he was very high on Bama last week. I think SMU being last week being ranked number 8 really helped them. When comparing these teams, I would have had Boise State at number 8 to begin with. You can put SMU over Indiana, fine. But SMU being number 8, them to lose a very close game that didn't drop them obviously far enough. They dropped to number 10. So they dropped 2 spots. They dropped below Indiana, right? Or am I tripping? Yes, Indiana moved up to number 8. So they moved up there. Where did they put Boise State? Boise State number 9. They still thought Indiana above Boise State. I don't understand that. But it's very interesting to see where the actual rankings were. So I'll save this here. Very interesting to see where the actual rankings were. I want to see what is Twitter. What is it's kind of risky going on this live, but we're here. Here it is, number 11 seed. People are happy about it. Bama's a very either you love them or hate them team. I think this was the right decision. You can argue it, in the comments. It's early. So, Clemson with that 12 seed sneaking in. And I'll be interested to see, man, can Clemson give Texas a fight? I don't know. We'll see. They I think ESPN wanted Bama. Yes, this is a message that you can get from this. The committee has sent a very strong message. Schedule the weakest teams to get in. Strength of schedule doesn't matter. You look at a team like Indiana, who is ranked kind of high, and obviously SMU getting in out over Alabama. Now, the argument here is don't lose 3 games to 6-6 teams. Now, obviously, they lost to Tennessee as well, but they lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. They had those bad slippers, and the chairman is on, so I'm gonna watch. All right, he's asking how. I wish I could show you guys this, but I don't want to get copyrighted. These were my rankings. They did bring up the way that SMU lost. Indiana. Yeah, Indiana's interesting, man, because they only have 1 loss. If they had gone into that Big Ten championship against Penn State or Oregon, You look at where they were. Indiana was ranked number 9. They're kind of on the fringe. If they had gone into that Big Ten championship game, uh, they probably would have got smoked by either Penn State or Oregon. I think Penn State and Oregon showed they're two of the best teams in the conference, or not just in the conference, in the country. Um, Obviously James Franklin having more woes. We'll see how he does against who are they playing? I already forget. They got the home. They're playing SMU, so that'll be interesting. Let's see if he says what the ACC championship game has to do with it. I think it's good to reward SMU's resilience as well. Um, have Bama ever had really a game like that where they come back? Not really. I mean, they were ahead. They were dominating Georgia. But again, that Bama team that played Georgia in what was it? October? Maybe September? I don't know if that's the same Bama team. Yeah, Oregon has yeah. Yeah, actually this is a good point. They make a very interesting point. I'm going to unround from this, but they make a good point. Oregon, the number 1 seed, looks like they have a much tougher road than at Penn State. Now, Oregon doesn't have to play a first round game, but they play Tennessee or Ohio State, two very, very good teams. And Penn State plays SMU and Boise State. We're not gonna kid ourselves around I'm not gonna be like SMU is the greatest now that they've gotten in, but you know what I'm saying. And they lost to their two big opponents, BYU and Clemson. Penn State gets a home game here, and then they play Boise State. Boise State, the other big power conference team they've played, Oregon, they lost to, albeit they only lost by 3. That's something to note. I really want somehow, it's probably not going to happen. I really wanted a Genty versus Scattaboo, but they make a good point about Oregon having to play Tennessee or Ohio State, the 8-9 matchup here, versus the 6-11. And that's the whole thing with like seeding these, and then it gets all complicated. Like, how are we going to rank the teams based on, to get the best seeding? This format is definitely flawed, and I think, there's some conversations to be had about how do we rank these teams. There's something floating around there about how, okay, let's make sure all the conference champions get in, but maybe we don't have to give them first round byes. Maybe we don't have to give a Boise State and a Arizona State first round bye. That way we could be looking at Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State in the quarterfinals, which the committee ranked as the 4 best teams in those rankings. Those are the 4 best teams, so they should get the byes theoretically. I think you can switch it around and kind of be like, okay, Boise State, Arizona. Boise State get the 9 seed. Arizona State get that 12, really 11 seed, and then Clemson gets the 12 seed. And then you can move up a Texas and a Penn State. Yeah, the format is very interesting. Who has the easiest path? Texas is looking okay. Clemson, they're very, up and down, obviously. They just came off a big win against SMU, but I like Texas' chances. Arizona State there. Arizona State's on a roll, but have they played a team like Texas? You know, a team as big and as talented. I'm just going off big and talented as Texas. No. Penn State's road. You know, you could argue that's a pretty good road for them. I think it really comes, as far as the higher ranked teams, I think it comes down to who has the easiest road. Probably a Penn State or Texas, because you're looking at two bye teams. Two teams that are conference champions that got byes. Boise State and Arizona State, who the committee ranks as number 9 and number 12. So immediately going into that, if Texas were to win, Texas, which is technically the lower seed in the field, or in the playoff, would be favored, and Penn State would probably be favored. So that's something that I think they should consider maybe switching around. You still put in those conference champions, but you don't have to give them byes. I think that could fix a little bit of the way we're seeing this bracket. I've been live for almost an hour here. I think we're going to finish up. I'll see maybe what else they have to say, and I'll make a video as well, kind of going over all of this. My reaction, a more concise video. Ducks, obvious number 1. Committee ultimately did the right thing in my mind. You would have opened the floodgates of hell if you kicked SMU out for playing an extra postseason game. Bottom line, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to catch my video. I'll probably have that out by today or tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Peace.